Hi, I'm Amy Romeo and welcome to my Spring Fling crafting event where I'm sharing a brand new spring faux leather craft for your Cricut every day for 10 days. Today's project is this really pretty bow purse charm. Bows are so popular this year in home decor and fashion and jewelry, so I wanted to make a fun and pretty accessory that you could use to dress up a purse or a backpack or something like that. This SVG file is available in my shop and I'll leave a link to it for you if you want to craft along with me. But before we get started with this project, let's talk about the tools and materials we'll be using. So I'll be using my Cricut Maker today, and you can use any of the current Cricut machines for this project because they all cut faux leather with the standard fine point blade. You can even cut this project with the Cricut Joy as long as you have the 12-inch long Joy mat. So the faux leather that I'm using some printed sheets of faux leather. I'll leave links to my favorite faux leather supplier and all of the materials that I'm using today for you. But you can use any print or pattern you'd like. I'll be cutting my faux leather on my purple strong grip mat. If you're using the Joy or the Joy Xtra, you can use the green mat that comes with those machines. I'll also be using some blue painter's tape. I'll show you how this helps me get good cuts. You'll need a weeding tool of some kind, either a hook or a pin pen. You'll want to have some craft scissors on hand. And then some other elements that we'll be using to make this project specifically is some fabric glue. I really like using Beacon Fabri-Tac, but you could use Aleene's or your favorite fabric glue or even craft glue as long as it is really smooth and spreads nicely and evenly. Now the hardware that I'm using for the top of this bow charm is this piece of hardware, and I will link to this for you. But if you don't want to use one of these, you can use just a regular keyring or even a keyring like this that has a lobster claw clasp at the top. This is a bigger hook in case you wanted to hook it on to a strap or a lunchbox or something like that. Now we'll also be using rivets. This just helps to kind of add some more interest and detail to the design, elevate the look a little bit, but I'll show you if you don't want to use rivets, I'll show you how to hide the rivet hole so it won't cut when you're cutting out your faux leather. Now finally, I'll be using another type of glue. I'll be using a hot glue gun with some glue sticks. I really like the Gorilla Glue, the mini glue sticks, and I love this Surebonder cordless glue gun, so I'll leave a link to that for you as well. When we get into gluing, we'll talk a little bit about why I'm using two different kinds of glues. Finally, you'll need any old hammer from your garage if you are using the rivets. So let's go ahead and hop into Design Space. We'll take a look at our pattern, we'll get our shapes cut out, and then I'll show you how to assemble this project. Starting with a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, you'll click on Upload, and then Upload Image, and you'll browse to where the unzipped SVG file is saved on your device. Click on it to select it, and then click Open. You'll see a preview of the bow shapes. Click Continue, and then Upload. And here are the three bow elements. So we have the first one here, the biggest one. This is the piece that is going to be the back of your bow charm, and it's going to fold over at this part. Our little keychain hardware will go here, and then we will glue the front and the back of this shape together. Now this piece here will turn sideways when we go to assemble the bow, and this will create the loops of our bow that sit on top of the flat bottom. And then this will be the little piece that ties off the bow for that finished look. So I did mention if you don't want to use rivets, these are your little rivet holes. You don't need to cut those. In order to hide them so they don't cut, we first need to ungroup our shapes, and then I can select only this piece, click the contour button, and you could see those little holes that are going to cut. You can see them both here on the left hand side, and you can see them here in the layers panel. So to hide them, we want to make them go from dark to light, and the way you do that is just by clicking on it, and then you see that that little hole grays out, and it also grays out here on the right hand panel here. You can also click on the shapes here on the layers panel, and they will also go gray here. That means they're not going to cut. So let me show you what that looks like when we X out of the contour menu. Now those little rivet holes are gone. So that's a great way. If you just want to use glue, you can hide those rivet holes. But I'm going to cut the rivet holes, so I will undo that step. And all we need to do now is click the Make It button. The first thing we want to do is toggle the mirror button on because faux leather cuts in reverse. Now the Cricut has placed our shapes together as close as possible for efficient cutting, but you can drag these shapes around a little bit if you need to. And I'll go ahead and click continue. And I'll cut this mat using the faux leather paper thin setting. Don't worry if your faux leather isn't paper thin, that's just the setting that we use, and that's what Cricut calls it. If you don't have this bookmarked as a favorite like I do, you can click on Browse All Materials and search for it. If you're using the Explore Air 2, you'll need to turn your dial to Custom before you can find this setting when you search. So faux leather paper thin, more pressure, and here's the reminder, we're just using the regular fine point blade that comes with all of our Cricut machines. So we're all set. Let's hop back over to my overhead camera and we will get our mat cut out, and then I'll show you the next steps for putting together our bow charm. So I have my purple strong grip mat and my polka dot print here. I'm going to put this pretty side down on my mat, and I know that my shape is going to cut over here, so I'm just going to make sure my faux leather is in the right position. Then I'm going to take some blue painter's tape and I'm just going to tape this faux leather down on all sides. What the tape does is it helps keep the material from moving while it's cutting, and that's going to help us get a better cut for our faux leather. So we have our faux leather paper thin cut setting with more pressure all ready to go. So I'll just load my mat into the machine and begin the cut. So my faux leather mat has finished cutting, and you don't want to unload your mat yet. You want to take your sharp weeding tool and lift up the edge of your cut and see if it looks like the cut went all the way through. And this one's looking pretty good. See how I can lift that up? If your cut does not look like it went all the way through, don't worry. You're going to go ahead and rerun the cut, and you can do that as many times as you need to just by pressing the cut button again. And that will work as long as you don't unload your mat. So I don't think I need to rerun my cut because these shapes look pretty good. So I'm going to remove my mat and then remove my shapes. So if you are cutting the rivet holes, then you'll have these little rivet holes that you need to punch out. So you can just punch them with your sharp weeding tool. And if they don't punch out cleanly, then you can use some small curved scissors to help you just finish trimming up that little cut hole. So we'll just remove our shapes. So the first part is to attach our hardware so that it's already in place and we don't have to mess around with it later. So what I'm going to do is kind of roll up my faux leather here. Don't worry, it's not going to rip or tear, just kind of roll it up and then slide whatever hardware you're using onto all of the bow parts. Again, this could be a regular round key ring. It could be one of these D-ring key rings. It's completely your choice. Just get it on there. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is use our glue, and we're going to apply glue all over the back of one half of your bow. Now I like to use Beacon Fabri-Tac because it spreads nice and smoothly. It doesn't create any lumps when I press the faux leather together. Really, any good fabric glue will work for this. A lot of people ask me about using E6000. I find that E6000 makes some lumps that I don't like underneath the faux leather, but you might have a different experience. It's totally up to you. So I've got glue all over one half, and now all I'm going to do is make sure my hardware is moved out of the way. I'm going to fold over the top half, and we're just going to line up those edges. Make sure the edges are all lined up. Once this dries, you won't be able to move those edges. So I kind of pick it up. If any glue has sort of scooched out of the edges, that's really what we want it to do. We want the glue to get all the way to the edge. So if any of it squeezes out, just wipe it away with your fingers or with a damp paper towel. Once you have it all set the way you like it, then we're just going to put it underneath our heavy book. I recommend for about an hour to really have this dry so it's nice and flat. So I'm going to let that dry. I'll come right back and we'll finish off assembling our bow charm. Okay, so our little flat part of the bow charm has been drying for about an hour. I did lift up the book about 10 minutes in just to see if there was any glue that I could wipe up from the edges. So I did that a little bit and then put it back under the book. But what happens when you press your glued faux leather under the book, you get a really nice seamless edge. and it almost looks like one piece of faux leather. You don't see any of the openings, and the whole piece is really nice and flat. So that's what we wanted. So now I want to show you how to apply the rivet in that little rivet hole. If you are not using the rivet, then don't worry, you can just skip that part and move on. But the rivet adds a really nice little finish and detail. So the rivets that I'm using are 6mm in size. There's two parts that come with the rivet. One looks like a nail head with a post, and the other part just looks like the nail head. These come in lots of different finishes, and I'll link to them for you. Now, it's nice if your rivet package also comes with the little finishing parts that you need. This is called a strike plate. This is going to support our piece as we're hammering. And then this little piece is what we're going to apply on our rivet and then hammer on the flat end. So there's a flat end that you hammer on, and there's a curved end that fits over your rivet, and that protects your rivet from getting damaged while you're hammering. So it's great if your rivet packages come with these if you don't have them already. So all we're going to do is take our little strike plate, put it down on our work surface. Then we're going to take our rivet that has the post, and you're just going to push it through on your little bow. It doesn't matter if you push from the front or the back because it will end up looking the same on both sides. Then we're going to take the little cap only. We're just going to slide that onto the post. And when you do, you can kind of snap it and you'll hear it connect. So that looks good already, but you can see that it isn't nice and flat. It's still sticking up. So that's what the hammering is going to help with. So I'm just placing one side of the rivet onto the strike plate. Then you need any old hammer from your garage. That little piece, so find the curved part on this little piece. Yours might be metal, this one's plastic. Put the curve on top of the rivet, on top of the strike plate. And then we're just going to tap here on the flat end of this piece, maybe 5, 6, 7 times. And then that very easily presses down that rivet so it's nice and flat on both sides and there's no damage to the rivet. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so we've done the rivet. Now if you skip the rivet, now's the time to come back to me. So now we're going to do our last two parts of our bow element here. So I am using a mini glue gun, and I'm using Gorilla Glue hot glue sticks, the mini kind. I really like this glue gun. Again, I'll link to it for you. You can use any glue gun you have, or if there's another type of glue, if you make a lot of faux leather bows and you have a favorite glue, go ahead and use that one for sure. So the first thing we're going to do is assemble our little fold over bow part here. So if you can see, this shape kind of goes up on both sides. I'm going to flip it over. And what I want to do, what we're going to end up doing is folding both of these parts over to the middle and hot gluing them. And see how then that creates a bow where the edges are going up a little. Just like that. You'll want to pay attention for that, because if you place it this way, then your little bows are going down, which is fine. It's totally up to you. Just wanted to point that out. So I'm going to place this upside down. Got my little glue gun here with a fresh glue stick. Just going to put a little bit of glue here on one side and then just fold over. Be careful because it will be hot. If you get a little too much glue, you can wipe that off. But basically I'm just making sure that my loop here in the front lines up with the loop in the back, and I don't see any weird gaps. That matches up to the front to the back. I hope you can see that. Now I'm going to do the same thing, just apply a little bit of glue here. And I'm going to fold over the other side. And again, just hold it in place with your finger for a bit. There we go. Now the last part is going to be to apply this little piece that goes over on the center. So I'm going to flip this over. It doesn't really matter which side you put it on, but I'm going to call this the back. I'm going to put some glue on the back here, just on 1/2. Can you see it's just right there on the 1/2, because I'm just going to take the end of this and put it right there. Take your time and just let these pieces dry. Now what I'm going to do is put some more glue on this back part. and then wrap that piece of faux leather around to the back. So I made this a little bit long so that you can decide how big you want it to be, but this is the front of my bow. So I'm just going to wrap this around. I want it to pop up a little bit. That looks pretty good. If you get those glue stringies, just move them out of the way. So that's how I want the front of my bow to look. So I'm going to come around the back now and just make sure that my glue dries nicely. So you will probably have a big piece like this. What we're going to do with that is just trim it off so we can't see it. There we go. So again, that's the bow sort of upside down because the bow ends are facing downward. I want them to face upward like that so they match this back part. So now the last part is just to glue our brand new little bow here onto our flat part. So all I'm going to do is put glue in the middle here on the back, and I'm going to put one line of glue down on each side of this part of the bow so that this will have more support. It'll be better anchored onto the faux leather underneath. So I'm just going to press down in the middle. If you make a mess with the glue like I did, you can just get rid of that before it dries. And there we go. Isn't that cute? I just think this is such a fun little idea to put on a purse or even a backpack, or my daughter might put this on her lunchbox. We'll have to see. And then the back is really nice and finished as well. So here's another look at all of the cute little bow charms together. I really hope you like this project and you enjoy making this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.